Mr. President, you talked to the partners. Of course, the key issue of this summit is a reparations loan for Ukraine. You said that it is crucial. What kind of feedback did you receive from partners? How optimistic are you that the reparation loan decision will be approved? And noting that otherwise there will be big problems for Ukraine, how big will they be? That is, how global are the risks? Will there be a collapse of the front or a terrible budget deficit? Can you please specify? Thank you.
Thank you. I would not like to say on behalf of the leaders in what format financial support for Ukraine is possible. We understand that most leaders support the reparations loan. There are leaders who support other tools. I cannot tell you for the leaders how today or the next day will end. I think we are united in one thing. We cannot afford for Ukraine to remain unanswered these days regarding its financial capabilities for next year. Because it really is a threat. What is the threat? There will definitely be a deficit of 45 to 50 billion, for sure. The deficit may be greater. We don't know exactly how events will develop next year. We are doing everything to end the war in the near future. We do everything. All our efforts are directed towards a diplomatic end to this war. But we hear different messages from the other side. I would say that these are not messages, but rather sounds from the Russian side that they are still talking more about war than peace. And that's why Ukraine must be strong. It's not easy. 45 to 50 billion, such a deficit is not only about the front, it is, in principle, about Ukraine's ability to fight. This is very important. These are very strong and high risks for Ukraine. And therefore, I am glad that today I had the opportunity to communicate, had the opportunity to convey all the important messages of the Ukrainian side. This is one part of our conversation, and the other part is the diplomatic discussion we are currently having with our American partners. Therefore, we will believe that there will be a positive decision today.
Next question, please. You're active. I can't see you. Okay, can we? Hello. Yes, please. Okay, next question. TVP World, please.
Mr. President, thank you very much. My first question, do you agree with Prime Minister Tusk? This morning, he said that the only opportunity for Europe is money today or blood tomorrow. And you just met with Prime Minister Bartova. How well do you understand Belgium's concerns about legal or financial retaliation if they agree to a loan?
I think that the Prime Minister is primarily talking about the security of Europe. And he is right that if we do not support Ukraine today, leave it alone. We are already fighting ourselves. It is our military who are fighting, and they have great respect, and from the leaders as well, from everyone. And here, of course, Europe today supports us with weapons and supports us financially. And the Prime Minister thinks that if you do not support Ukraine, there are great chances that Ukraine may not endure, and then Europe will pay not with money, but with blood. I absolutely agree, because the signals from Russia are definitely not about peace with Europe, they are just like that. I don't want to intimidate anyone, but these are the Prime Minister's words, they are clear. I think we'll talk to Donald in more detail tomorrow. As for the Prime Minister of Belgium, I think that, first of all, we had a good talk with him, we understand each other. I understand the risks he is talking about. But we are at war, and, in my opinion, we are at greater risks. What is important is that the signal comes from him that we, of course, in any case, must resolve the issue today or in these days so that Ukraine is not left without financial support. This is a positive signal from him.
Okay, BBC next, please.
Mr. President, in continuation of my colleague's question, can you explain to us what it would mean if this money is not there in the spring, what it would mean for Ukraine, for its ability not only to fight, but also to function as a country?
If in the spring Ukraine If Ukraine does not receive the appropriate tranche in the spring, which in case of peace Ukraine will use to restore our state, and in case of continuation of the war Ukraine will use this money for the following priorities. First of all, the production of drones. If this tranche does not arrive, the production of drones in Ukraine will be reduced several times. By comparison, regarding the low-cost drones we use on the battlefield, we currently maintain a competitive level relative to Russia. Without this, our numbers would be significantly lower. And when it comes to long-range capabilities, we are using our own resources today, and they are doing the same. On our side, through the energy sanctions packages implemented by our European and American partners, we are doing everything we can to reduce Russia's access to energy resources. All this simply will not happen. This is the answer.
Politico, please. Politico, here.
Thank you, Politico, Berlin. I have a follow-up question about the negotiations that took place in Berlin. There were difficult issues that remained open. You mentioned territorial issues. Do you think you have made some progress on these issues? Do you think that the ball is now in Russia's court, or are there still open things that you would like to discuss with the American side? And also, one of the points of the American plan is about Ukraine's accession to the EU, and there is a certain acceleration. Some even talked about 2027. What do you think is realistic for your side? What is your goal in terms of the date and in terms of reforms that definitely need to be done?
Accession to the European Union can be accelerated, and it depends on our steps and the steps of our leaders. If these steps are not blocked politically. So, if it is tied to legislation, changes, reforms, I understand this logic. If it is blocked politically, I don't understand this logic, but I understand who is doing it. This is open information. Therefore, in principle, for us the European Union, membership in the European Union, for us these are security guarantees, part of those security guarantees that Ukraine not only declares, but also negotiates and expects. If these are security guarantees from the United States, we understand the specific details we want to rely on, and we are currently discussing them, negotiating certain aspects. As for the European Union, it's more like a coalition of the willing, which includes not only EU countries but other European nations as well. And from the European Union itself, it's guaranteed membership in the EU. For us, these are really security guarantees, not only economic, political, geopolitical. Therefore, the date of membership in the European Union is very important for us. And I'm not talking about the date, the year, etc., because that will definitely be decided by the leaders of the European Union. But it is very important for us that this is not decided by others, not decided by Russia and others, by those who want or block us. Even some members of the European Union are blocking for political reasons, and not because some reform has not been implemented in Ukraine. I am for justice. Next, regarding the sensitive issues we discussed with the United States of America. Donbas is an issue that has not been resolved. We have different views. The nuclear power plant, which is occupied by the Russian Federation and is not working, is destroyed but should work and provide electricity. Our station, our rights. The issue has not been resolved. Money issue. I fully expressed my views today to my colleagues and leaders. I believe that reparation loans, they should be a positive issue because this is not only a question of financial support for Ukraine in the first quarter of next year, but also an issue of a different nature. We really do not want this tool to remain in the hands of the Russians later. We really don't want this. We also believe that they will do everything to block it.
Next question, Freedom, please.
The next question from Freedom, please. Oleg Borisov, Freedom TV channel. The question is for you, Mr. President, but I really want my colleagues from other countries to hear it. I see a lot of powerful and good international media. In Ukraine, we have an online resource that shows where each missile is flying in our cities. Right now, as we speak, 10 drones are flying towards the million-strong city of Dnipro and a high-speed target is flying towards Zaporizhia. This is a rocket that destroys houses. The city of Odessa, a city of 1 million people, was without electricity for 3 days. Ukrainian railways are switching to diesel trains. There is no electricity. Mr. President, I have a question for you. Considering that Russia has pledged more than $160 billion, a record amount, for the war against Ukraine next year. After today's discussions, do our partners understand? You say that some politically perceive this issue. Do they not want to accept it? Do they understand the catastrophic nature and radicalism of Russia? And, pardon my word, a spit in the face of the whole world from Putin on peace proposals, on the desire to end this war. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Thank you for reminding the world in what conditions Ukraine is fighting. Because it's hard to call it life, what's happening is a fight for survival. As for today, we are also talking about air defense, about some missiles. I don't want to say out loud what the shortage is. There are some systems that do not have some types of missiles. I spoke with our partners today, and we agreed that we can debate endlessly, but missiles are flying every day, hitting somewhere every single minute. This needs to be shot down. And so partners either give licenses or give missiles or help with money and we buy it ourselves. There are no other ways out. Does Europe understand? I think it understands. But it seems to me that the best answer is when the Russians allocate such record budgets not for peace, but for war, not with anyone, but with us. Of course, all this will then need to be fed and constantly fed to this industry. You can't just give them money for the next year, and then what will they do with these already bloated military companies, and so on? Feed them constantly. They will all speak out and support the war because these are big earnings. This is a big problem. So, to finish, what am I talking about? Because then this problem, there is Ukraine, but all this, when it inflates, all this will be directed somewhere. And today the question is not where, but most importantly, that it will be directed. Everyone needs to come together because eventually it could strike anyone. This could be a new stage of the war. I don't want to intimidate anyone, everyone just needs to be prepared. And the last point, does Europe understand? Today, the catalyst is important, today's decision is whether our partners understand us or not. Let's see.
Somebody from this side. Right here.
Thank you, Mr. President. Eleanor Klein from Denmark. When is it necessary for European leaders to make a final decision on funding for Ukraine, and will they be able to postpone this decision, for example, until January or later? We know you need money for the second quarter of 2026, but when do you need the decision to be made?
Our partners say that a decision can be made by the end of the year.
Euronews next, please. There.
Euronews, please.
Of this year, of course. It's important. Just to remind our partners.
Thank you very much. Sasha Vakulina, Euronews. Mr. President, question. In continuation of the meeting in Berlin, I would like to know how you assess the progress on the diplomatic side of attempts to resolve Russia's war against Ukraine? And if you are planning any meetings with Donald Trump in the near future, do you think that the commitments that European leaders have made, could they replace Article 5 and NATO accession?
There is progress in our dialogue with the American side. Why? Because we had several formats, several documents in our dialogue with America, and I believe there is progress in our dialogue. The question is that this is part of the negotiation process. Then the United States of America accepts our changes, certain points, and communicates with the Russian side. Therefore, so far I simply do not have feedback on our latest progress. I can't tell you what is and what isn't. But in the coming days, we will say for sure. And I believe that the frequency of our meetings is also progress. So far, I perceive it that way. Maybe this is more optimism than realism, but these are the realities we have. We live by fighting for ourselves and believing that we will succeed. As for security guarantees and the presence of European leaders, we do not believe that Europe should replace the United States of America. And, of course, we have the same attitude to the security guarantees of the United States of America, which will be Article 5-like, and we will not need European support. These are different things. And whatever signals Russia sends, we understand that they would like to exclude the presence of Europeans. You can't do that. These are different things. This does not mean that Europe, if there is aggression from Russia again, that Europe will be able to fight with its presence. No one is talking about it. The presence of Europe reduces the chances and probability of aggression by the Russian Federation. Of course, the number of countries, the number of flags, let's say, the large presence that the coalition of the willing has in one form or another, no matter how many countries there are, these are big risks to start aggression against Ukraine again. Therefore, the presence of Europe is important for us. Now, when we talk about a backstop with the United States, we are referring both to intelligence and to security guarantees, strong security guarantees from the United States that we can rely on. We cannot say all the details today, but when we talk about Article 5 of NATO, we understand that this is a response to aggression. And we will discuss these details with our partners. And what we understand is that there should be a legally binding article, security guarantees from the United States of America, which should be supported by the United States Congress.
Speaking of the United States, the Wall Street Journal, please. Thank you, Wall Street Journal. 3 questions. Mr. President, first of all, you called the security guarantees that the United States offered you the first draft in Berlin. The Americans say they will send it to the Senate so that it is ratified and legally binding. So, specifically, what else do you need to hear from Americans regarding backstop support? What is there so that it turns into a really first draft that you will like or that will satisfy you? Second, regarding the loan. How important is it for you to get the loan promise now for your negotiations with the United States? We know that you are under pressure on the issues of territory in the Donbas, Donetsk region, from the Trump administration. Do you need this leverage in these negotiations to show them that you have the funding to keep fighting?
These questions, they are related. These questions are definitely related, of course. The money is needed so that Russia and anyone else does not use these Russian assets as a lever of influence over us. We want a solution, of course, so that it is not part of the negotiations. And we want this tool to support us. We are more confident at the negotiating table with such a tool than without it. And to the question, how will you last another year if you have no money, there is an immediate answer, and no such questions arise then. In the meantime, there are such questions in the air. I want to remove everything superfluous and focus on the real reasons that can actually stop Putin and where we really have difficulty in negotiations. And so we will move on. If there is no question of finances, there will be a question then. Regarding Donbas. And for our partners, these issues are closely linked. Eastern security guarantees. I believe that the end of the war in general, not just the land, but the end of the war in general is connected to security guarantees, because without strong security guarantees, it doesn't mean it's the end. Then it's a kind of pause, and when Russia decides, I'm ready to go with aggression again, it will go. So you must have such guarantees that speak clearly to everyone, the people of Ukraine, Europeans, investors, American business, everyone. People who live primarily in Ukraine, people who want to return to Ukraine, people who want to invest in Ukraine, Europeans who want to see Ukraine as a member of the European Union, and these are very important things for everyone. What security guarantees will post-war Ukraine have? And voted down, of course, because no one believes in the Budapest Memorandum or the Minsk Agreements 2, 3, 5, 8. I want this to be voted down. But is that enough, you say? I think this is important. This is a detail that Ukraine has never had. Is it enough? No. There is a strong army there. And so, when we discuss security guarantees with the Americans, I am grateful to them for that. Our military discusses the issues of the quality and quantity of manning the Ukrainian army. And that is absolutely fair. This is something that can be seen and that the Ukrainian people, at least the Ukrainian people, believe in very much. Strong Ukrainian army. And a strong Ukrainian army means a normal contract, salary, staffing, training, conditions, and weapons. Above all, weapons. There is a question that I cannot get an answer to yet. It doesn't mean that someone doesn't want to. We just haven't gotten to that point yet. The question is about security guarantees. When you don't have NATO, but you have security guarantees like NATO. Someone says, maybe this is even better. I don't know. I don't dare to judge. I undertake to assess only one thing, the answer to the question. Of what the United States of America will do if Russia comes with aggression again. What will these security guarantees do? How will it work? How will all partners work? How, by what force, will they stop Moscow? Specifically, it seems to me that this needs to be answered. Let it not be public, but let it be enshrined in some documents.
Next question,
please, Sky News. If you can help me identify your media, that would help a lot. Thank you. President Zelenskyy, returning to Russian frozen assets. We know that Belgium, the Belgian government, is in the strongest opposition to this, and we know their reasons why. What did you say to the Belgian Prime Minister when you met with him to try to convince him? And do you think you were able to convince him to change his government's position?
I've already told the Belgian Prime Minister everything. I just talked to him one-on-one with him before our press conference, and I already had a meeting. I told him everything, and he told me everything. And whether it turned out to be productive, we will see. We need a little time. Thank you.
Answer, please.
Thank you, National Italian Agency. Mr. President, at the last meeting of the European Council, European leaders agreed to meet Ukraine's financial needs for the next 2 years. That has been said. Today's European Commission proposal for reparations loans is on the table. But the question is, do you want this proposal to be confirmed for the sake of the message that will go to the Kremlin, or can any other form also be acceptable if Ukraine receives these funds? And second, what message do you have for those leaders, other than Belgium, who are still skeptical about approving this proposal? Thank you.
Regarding countries that are skeptical for various reasons, there are some internal issues. Someone has internal politics and someone is against Ukraine. No matter what Ukraine wants or does, someone is still against it. These are their political prejudices, to be honest. There are several ways for Ukraine to receive funding. By and large, today Ukraine needs to close this problem and have funding. This is number one. As for the future, the more correct form is reparation loans, so that we all understand that Russia is guilty and that it will be necessary to pay reparations.
Okay. Next question, Reuters, please.
Next question, Reuters, please. Mr. President, Andrew Griff, Reuters. Many people interpreted your words over the weekend about NATO membership as meaning that Ukraine had given up on its desire to join NATO. Is this true or not? And if so, could you advocate for changes to your constitution in order to remove this wish from there altogether?
This is how my words were interpreted. I have honestly raised this issue from the very first days, from my first dialogue with the President of the United States of America, former President Biden. Because we have NATO in the constitution of our state and the European course. And I ask this question absolutely directly: can Ukraine be in NATO? Because we want it, and we understand that these are real security guarantees. That was before the war. President Biden told me, "No, you will not be in NATO." I've approached this question every time, and it's already caused smiles and all sorts of reactions from someone in the White House. And they always said I was tough. I don't know why. Honestly, I don't understand when this or that state says, "We don't mind, in principle, but you won't be there." I believe that if you are not there because someone is against it, then you need to openly say who is against it and then resolve these issues or not solve them. And therefore, frankly, I do not believe that we need to change the constitution of our state. Because, firstly, this is the constitution of Ukraine, and let the Ukrainian people decide what to do with our constitution, and not someone decides. Definitely not because of the calls of the Russian Federation or anyone else. This is our constitution, and this is the course. We wanted to have such security guarantees, we believe we deserve them. The policy is consistent, to be honest, in the United States. It does not change regarding Ukraine's membership in NATO. They don't see us there. For now. Look, everything in our life is for now. Maybe in the future the position will change. Maybe someone will realize that a strong Ukrainian army strengthens NATO, and not vice versa. That is, this is a matter of politics. The world changes, someone lives, someone dies. This is life. And we are fighting for security guarantees. Today they are the ones we are discussing. You can't interpret my words any other way. I simply said that in the agreement between us. And whoever it is, I cannot say that I will not be in NATO because I do not decide this issue. My signal to the partners was as follows. This is the responsibility of NATO members exclusively, their desire to see us there, their reluctance, their agreements with Russia, their lack of agreements. This is a little different. Our position is unchanged, we deserve it. We would like to have such security guarantees. And the position of partners, we also hear, it is still unchanged. And let them be responsible for these changes or non-changes. In my opinion, this is fair. This is roughly like the issue of reparations loans, so that we can resolve it with the Russians in the future. Why are we suddenly talking about finances, which in Europe we have to solve with the Russians? Not with the Russians, not with the Chinese, not with anyone, because the money is in Europe. Can we solve these issues with the Europeans?
A few more questions. ORF.
Yes, please, here, and then NHK after.
Mr. President, ORF, Austrian National Television. Almost a year ago, I was standing here and you were standing there behind the podium, and I asked you what you thought about Donald Trump becoming President of the United States again. And it's been almost a year now, and I was wondering how your relationship, your attitude towards Donald Trump, has changed, and has anything surprised you about how it's all been going?
Will you ask me the same question each time we meet? Very interesting. I will prepare for the next time. Look, this is not an easy dialogue, frankly. We are at war. The United States, you know, they make decisions, and they are the ones who can really stop Putin. And I'm counting on it. I am really counting on pressure from the United States. Now the United States is more of a mediator, and it's true, they are mediating this between us. But I would really like him to take more steps to put pressure on Russia, because I think Putin doesn't want to stop this war, but he can do it if the United States puts more pressure. And President Trump can do it, I think so. And God forbid that he succeeds in this. But we will continue next year.
NHK, please.
Thank you very much. NHK, Japan, I have a question about the reparations loan. Do you have any hope that other G7 countries, especially Japan and perhaps the United States, which have Russian frozen assets within their countries but are less enthusiastic about using them to finance Ukraine, will also take some steps forward?
Let's look at today's decision. It is certainly the main one because most of the money is in Europe. But in any case, such a decision may also affect relevant decisions, albeit in smaller amounts. But here the principle itself is that the world supports returning frozen money, various assets of the Russian Federation for their aggression against Ukraine, returning it to Ukraine in one form or another. Therefore, maybe today's decision, if it is positive or, God forbid, it will affect other states.
Questions, please. Belgium first, and then Suspilny from Ukraine. Mr. President, VRT, Belgian television. Prime Minister De Wever and the government say they want to finance Ukraine, but do not use Russian assets because it is contrary to international law, as they say. And the majority of the Belgian population is also quite apprehensive about the use of these Russian assets. What would you tell them to address these concerns?
In my opinion, this is absolutely fair. First of all, before saying that Ukraine can do without this money or how difficult it will be for people to survive without this money, I would first look at this from the perspective of values, both morality and law. And Ukraine has every right to the money because Russia is destroying us, and it is absolutely fair to use it to rebuild Ukraine or to defend Ukraine. Legal experts all say, the majority, let's say, experts say, that it is an absolutely clean decision and an absolutely fair decision. At least the one that is considered today regarding the format of use in the future use of these assets. So in terms of values and law, everything is correct. You can be afraid of certain legal steps from the Russian Federation, but it's not as scary as having Russia on your border. I'm telling you frankly. Therefore, I believe that as long as Ukraine defends Europe, Ukraine should be helped.
Valeria Pashko, public broadcaster of Ukraine. Regarding security guarantees, another follow-up. Can you confirm that the American side really offers Ukraine guarantees under the Article 5 model? And are these guarantees, if they are offered, tied to territorial concessions on our part? And if European countries are ready to provide security guarantees under Article 5 again, how many? And are they ready? Have there been any talks yet? Thank you.
It's difficult to answer your question for now because I want to be honest. I definitely understand the potential appeal of certain security guarantees from our partners and how they might move toward concessions on some issues. We logically understand this. Partners did not tell me this directly. Therefore, I want to be honest with you. But I also understand the mood. And I understand our actions, how we will act in such difficult circumstances. In my opinion, there should be a partnership here. There can be no question of exchange. Even I'm not talking about territories, but about services. So far, so good. We will get to this topic. Thank you.